Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Hungary is to detain migrants in metal shipping containers along its southern border, where they will be kept while they wait for their asylum cases to be heard. The measure applies to men, women and children over 14. The country's Prime Minister Viktor Orban is known for his hardline attitude towards migration. He's described it as a Trojan horse for terrorism and says the measures are intended to save Europe. Human rights group Amnesty International has condemned the move as a flagrant violation of international law. The Hungarian parliament approved the law to detain migrants as part of measures to tighten controls on the Serbian border, which has been a focus of the European migration crisis since 2015.
We are not terrorists. We are refugees. There is no human rights here. This is not camp. It's a prison. It's a prison. They are treating us like as animals.
Well, a little over a month ago, this programme reported from Asothalom, a village on the Hungarian-Serbian border, where the mayor has similar views.
Asothalom, a village on the southern Hungarian plains, just minutes from the Serbian border, where in 2015, 10,000 migrants a day crossed into Hungary. The village population is declining and homesteads stand vacant. The mayor here wants to attract foreign investors, but not just any foreigner.
We primarily welcome people from Western Europe, people who wouldn't like to live in a multicultural society. We wouldn't like to attract Muslim people in the village.
What if I was black, or what if I was gay? How would you feel about that?
Asothalom has a bylaw that bans homosexual propaganda. We adopted it a few weeks ago. As for your other question, think about this. Europe is small. It can't take in billions of people from Africa and South Asia, where there's a population boom. This would soon lead to the disappearance of Europe. I'd like Europe to belong to Europeans, Asia to belong to Asians, and Africa to Africans. Simple as that.
He's so serious, he's introduced local legislation banning public displays of affection by gay people, the wearing of Islamic dress like the hijab, and he wants to ban the building of mosques.
There are two Muslims in Asothalom. One of them agreed to speak to us, but at the last minute pulled out. They didn't want to attract attention to themselves.
They've spoken of their fears to Hungarian media in the past, but other villagers reject the laws are a huge concern. However, they are the talk of the village pub.
Important issues like this should be regulated by the national government, not local legislation.
If they take off their veil, I'll accept them. It doesn't even matter if they are black. They should become Hungarian citizens, even if they are Muslims or whatever.
Are you trying to create a white kind of supremacist village?
Nem, I didn't use this word white, but because we are a white European Christian population, we want to stay this. like this. So.
Well, we can go now to Nick Thorpe, who's in Rochke on the Hungarian-Serbian border, where they're building the container camp. Nick, tell us what is actually happening there right now.
Well, yes, Joanna, here I'm right next to the container camp. You may be able to hear in the background earth-moving machines, digging machines. They've already flattened the area here at Rochke. Basically, they're putting into place containers, shipping containers, which will house up to, at this place, 250 asylum seekers from the beginning of April. There's one other camp like this, but they're preparing it now. Each individual cabins, effectively like shipping containers, and that's where all asylum seekers in future will be detained.
And tell us more about the controversies around Hungary's policy. There has been a ruling against Hungary by the European Court of Human Rights.
That's right. Hungary's government's position, it's a rather hard-line position. It sees pretty much all the migrants crossing the border, whether legally or illegally, into Hungary as economic migrants. It doesn't see this as a humanitarian issue. It sees it as a security issue, and it sees Hungary effectively on the front line. It says it's defending Hungary and the European Union. Of course, it's a Schengen member country. The European Court of Human Rights, this is a very interesting and precedent-setting case. This was just a couple of days ago. It ruled against Hungary over the detention in exactly this place where I'm standing now of two Pakistani citizens in September 2015. Hungary had argued that Serbia, just the other side of the border, is a safe country, and therefore it was allowed to send them back. Hungary argued that it could detain them here for 23 days in similar containers to the ones just being arranged here now, but the European Court of Human Rights ruled that Hungary had violated international rules, asylum procedures, and so on by doing that. So Hungary was found in breach of international and EU rules.
So is there any sanction against Hungary, or can Hungary just continue to ignore that and potentially any other rulings?
There have been a chorus of international criticism from the United Nations Refugee Agency, also from human rights organisations. The UNHCR cannot sanction Hungary. The European Commission would. There were hearings in the European Parliament recently, and people are waiting to see. I think the government also is waiting to see, because by tightening the rules and by introducing this effectively automatic detention, Hungary is clearly going sort of head-to-head with Brussels. People are wondering whether the European Commission will challenge this, or indeed anyone else will challenge this legally.
Thank you, Nick. Well, we can also talk now to Erno Simon, a spokesman for UNHCR in Hungary. Spokesman Stefan Moisang, who is head of Médecins Sans Frontières mission in Serbia. And we're also joined by the Hungarian government spokesman Zoltán Kovács. And we will hear from you, Zoltán, in a few moments. But first of all, Erno, from the UNHCR, what is your perspective of the containers?
Well, we think that detention of asylum seekers in these conditions, in these containers, is absolutely against international law and against EU law. The only criteria why these people would be detained is that they seek asylum in Hungary. They have not committed any crime, and all of them will be detained behind 4-meter high razor wire fence. This is unacceptable.
Hungary says it is dealing with a situation where it is trying to manage large numbers of people who have been trying to get into the country. Is this a proportionate response?
Well, as I've mentioned, under the international law, seeking asylum is absolutely a basic human right, and no one should be sanctioned for it. No one should be suffer any retortions for it. Any people can ask for asylum and has the right to enter the territory of a country and has the right to have access to a fair, legal asylum procedure. Hungary now prepares to detain every single asylum seeker, including children who come with families or who come alone to Hungary. Mm-hmm. So I think this is absolutely not a humanitarian and not a proportionate response to this new situation.
Stéphane Moisang from Médecins Sans Frontières. Doctors with Médecins Sans Frontières have said that they've been treating migrants who say they were treated brutally by the Hungarian authorities. I know that MSF hasn't directly witnessed any incidents, but tell us what the allegations that you have heard are.
Yes, we have some case of violence which come to our clinic in Belgrade. The trend of violence is increasing as the weather conditions are more suitable for migrants to travel. The violence are not new. Since January 2016, we record some violence already, and actually in February we had 39 cases at our clinic. And the last 2 weeks of March, we have 37 cases. So the trend of violence seems to be increasing. After the violence is a brutal act on migrants, but what we hear on testimonies, and much more people give their testimonies and consult for violence. So we see only the tip of the iceberg. And the testimonies we receive are telling that a long session of humiliation are happening to migrants. So there are some dog bites, beating with rubber sticks, tear gas and pepper sprays, infection, and the migrants are kept between 30 minutes to 4 hours sometimes, and they are humiliated. So we have seen some adult males who were crying, and even kids as young as 13 years old to be brutalized as well. So it is an inhuman treatment, and what we see is that allegations are not really investigated, and we would like to have a government body to investigate those allegations.
Zoltán Kovács, you are joining us as the Hungarian government spokesman. A lot of allegations being made against Hungary over its treatment of asylum seekers. Inhumane treatment, it has been called. How do you respond to that?
Indeed, they are allegations. We haven't seen any evidence, actually, supporting these allegations. Therefore, we have to presume that most of them are simply lies. Confabulation is very well known, actually, among those migrants, illegal migrants who are reaching the borders of Europe. For the past 2-3 years, we've seen many weird stories and interpretations. So you have to be very careful when you meet these allegations and stories. Also keep in mind that we bumped into something like a gross misinterpretation of international law on asylum seekers. There's no such human right that would allow anyone around the globe to freely choose his destination, cross countries illegally, and eventually come to the borders of the European Union and to one of the European member states and apply for asylum. There's no such rule.
Hungary has been ruled against by the European Court of Human Rights on the issue.
Yes, but you have to be precise on the two cases. I mean, this is a ridiculous and absurd case, because 2 Pakistanis or Bangladeshis, to the best of my knowledge, were awarded some financial ramifications just because we've sent them back to Serbia, through Serbia to Greece, allegedly because they are going to be ill-treated in Greece. I mean, keep in mind that Greece is a member of the European Union. As a matter of fact, it's part of the Schengen zone. And it's just, again, ridiculous and absurd to presume that one European member state is not a safe country. Again, keep in mind these migrants are coming through a number of states, including Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, Serbia. All of them are safe countries. As a matter of fact, the European Union regard Turkey as a safe country. And
the largest proportion of migrants trying to come through to Hungary are coming from Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Do you see them as part of a humanitarian crisis?
It is becoming a humanitarian crisis because we don't deal with it according to what is happening. This is not.
In terms of their experience and where they have come from.
Indeed, but this is not a refugee crisis. This is a migration crisis we face. Let alone in Hungary, we have registered migrants coming from over 100 countries, 104 countries for the past couple of years. Last year, 1.2 million people entered the European Union, and we see that a majority of them are not going to be entitled for any kind of legal status. Therefore, they should be returning back to where they were coming from. And that's increasingly problematic to put into effect. Take a look at Germany, the Scandinavian countries. They're struggling with tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who should be sent back. And it's impossible because they basically failed to fulfill their obligations under the existing European framework, and that is to ensure that only those step on European soil who have a legal right for that. So you can't possibly fulfill two expectations. One, that illegal migrants are stopped at the borders of the European Union. That's an expectation on behalf of Germany, Scandinavian countries and Western Europe, and at the same time to let everyone to the European Union. What we are trying to do is to restore law and order at the European borders. We have an obligation under the existing rules.
Enno Simon, Hungary has an obligation under the existing rules. And what about the point that actually migrants, once they get to that point, have actually passed through other safe countries as well, where they could stay?
Well, as a matter of fact, UNHCR does not consider Serbia or Macedonia, for example, safe third countries. So they might be safe countries for their own citizens, safe countries of origin. But the asylum institutions, the whole asylum system doesn't work, doesn't function properly in those countries. So we do not recommend to countries to send asylum seekers back to Serbia or, for example, to Macedonia.
Would you like to respond just finally to that point, Zoltán Kovács?
Yeah, but again, come back to common sense. That's ridiculous. If the European Union considers Turkey a safe country, a member state like Greece should be considered as a safe country. And as a matter of fact, we all know that Macedonia and Serbia are safe countries as well. We have to stop. We have to cut this vicious circle of illegal migrants using the services of human traffickers crossing a number of countries illegally just because they believe, and again, it doesn't really matter if they are refugees proper or economic migrants, that they have a right to come to the European Union without any approval. We have to turn back to common sense and to legality at the borders of the European Union.
Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Enno Simon from UNHCR, Stefan Moisang, Médecins Sans Frontières, and Zoltán Kovács, Hungarian government spokesman.
I've been getting away with it all